safe and blessed we shall be.
Father God, you call us to do many things, and we sometimes we're afraid of that challenge. But I just ask that you help us to realize that you are our strength. You are there supporting us as we learn about the story of Moses in Exodus. We learn about a patriarch of our faith, yet who was a broken man, a sinner, and someone who was awfully afraid to follow you. Yet you, it was only you, gave him the strength to do something amazing. So help us to trust in you and have faith in you through all of the small and big trials of our lives. It's in your name that we pray. Amen.
All right, men. Andy might get back any minute, so let's get this over. We've got to give him 24-hour protection. Raise your right hands and repeat after me. As a deputy of the county of Mayberry, I swear to uphold the... Oh, just get your hand up.
My time is up, Barney. Can't I go home now?
Now, you listen to me, Otis. If anything should happen to Andy, we might get us a new sheriff. And if we get a new sheriff, he might not be so easy on you. You might not be able to wander in and out of here at your own convenience. Now, get your hand up. As a deputy of the county...
Question.
Yeah.
Are we gonna get done?
You are?
Do we get to ride in a patrol car?
You do?
You're a fool, Otis. This is gonna be fun.
Quiet, Homer. Sounds like somebody could get hurt. Isn't that right, Barney?
Could be.
That's what bothers me. I never cared much about injuries. They're very painful. I don't want any part of this.
Now, you listen to me, both of you. We're here to protect one of the all-time greats. And how you can even think, mind you, of backing down is beyond me and mine. I realize that some of you have family responsibilities. And if for that reason or any other, you feel this mission is too dangerous and you want to pull out, all right, you're free to walk right out that door. Get back here. Now you get them hands up. You're both gonna be deputies whether you like it or not. All right, men. Andy might get back any minute, so let's get this over.
Gomer and Otis. Have they ever seen that episode? Those of you younger, you missed the classic right there. I got a little taste of there. A little bit kind of a reluctant deputy, huh? Reluctant deputies. For all the excitement and the perks that old Barney can probably try to muster up in his imagination as to why they should serve to protect Andy, he doesn't seem to be quite getting the persuasive job, and so he just says, you're going to be deputies whether you like it or not. I wonder if God would like to just be able to do that sometimes. I know sometimes I would. It's just like, you know what, I'm going to say it and so people got to do it. I'm sure God would love to do that. But I think he uses the power of persuasion a little bit more than Barney. He doesn't just say you're going to do it whether you like it or not. He tries to compel us on the morality of something, or on the impact that it could have in our family, or the impact it could have in a community. There's the impression we leave on the world that itself should be enough persuasion. A lot of times I think we're kind of more Otis than Barney about everything that's good. We're Barney about all the stuff that doesn't matter past the day, that gets exhausted on its use. We're Barney on those things, but a lot of times we're Otis on the things that matter the most. We're reluctant deputies, so to speak. Well, this morning we're going to talk about this, and you're going to have to determine at the end of this whether you are more Otis or more Barney on the things that matter, especially in regard to a call. Do you have a call, and are you willing to follow through on it? This morning we actually finished the second part of a two-part mini-series inside of our bigger series going on with Exodus. We're actually spending some more time looking into the story of the burning bush, how God speaks from the burning bush to Moses about a couple of things. And last week we started out there. We talked about how he heard the pain and the suffering of his people, Israel. They're in Egypt, aren't they? They're suffering under slavery, and they have been for 4 centuries at this point. And he hears that, and so he calls Moses to confront Pharaoh and to lead the people of Israel not only out of slavery, out of Egypt, but to a place. Not just from something, but to something. He wants to lead them to a place that we call the land of promise. And as we learned, that first part of the two-part story, in that burning bush, the cry of the people was what started this thing out. You know, God, we're suffering. A lot of times we want to think that this story is about Moses, but it's not so much about Moses. It's Moses' story and that he's called into it, but it's really about what's going on with the people, and that's what last Sunday was a lot about. A lot of times we just think the story's about us. Instead, the fact is, why are you in church today? Why are you in church today? You know why? Because your life is not about you. My life is not about me. The cry of the people is the call of Moses, the call of a person. And so that's what we heard last week. Much in the same way that, you know, when there is suffering and someone's in a place that needs emancipating, freeing out, someone's got to do the hard work of seeing that through. It's been happening for a long, long time in human history, from Spartacus in Rome to Wilberforce in England, Buxton in India. There's Lincoln and Tubman and Douglas here in America, to obviously Jesus himself coming to this world to free it out of an impossible situation. The people who are willing to hear people's cry are the kind of people that make a real difference. And so instead of just trying to wave a gun at you and be a Barney on these things, I think God's constantly trying to compel us to do the thing that is right. Moses heard God call him exclusively because God had heard the cry of the people. It was time. And so he calls Moses to help speak to the need of the people because they needed saving. So if you're listening closely in this life, you're not distracted, you're not focused on things that will only last for the day, if you're listening to God, you will most certainly hear his cry, his calling you to the people of Mokina, the people of Frankfurt, the people of Manhattan, the people of New Lenox, the people of Orland, the people of Tinley. The town you live in, you're going to hear him calling you to them. You're going to hear him calling you when you're feeling tired at the end of the day to talk to your neighbor. You're going to hear him calling you when you're tired and when you're a little bit frustrated and you don't quite know what to say to somebody else. He's going to call you that. He calls us to people. He always calls us to people. There's more we than me in the book of Exodus. He's constantly calling us towards that. But that is where we left off last Sunday. That's kind of the recap of the first part of this little mini-series. That there's a call because there's always people. And the question is, do we listen and will we follow it? Well, last Sunday did not really reveal how Moses responded to that. We just found out there's people that are hurting. God calls Moses. What will Moses do? We did not see how he responded, and so that's where we find ourselves today. So if you have a Bible, the book of Exodus, chapter 3 again, is where we're going to find our way in the middle of that story and keep going with it. So please grab a Bible on your seat. How you guys doing today? Hey, let me bring the lights up. I think this is dreary for some reason here today. Can you bring the lights up for us somehow? Can somebody do that? I think we're a little bit tired today. I'm going to pray right now because I think it's important. The clapper didn't work, huh? I want to pray because I don't know that we're here yet, and I don't want to preach a sermon that nobody's here for. You catch what I'm saying? This is important stuff. We don't go through the Bible for any small reason. This stuff is transcendent. And if we don't do it, who are we? God, please speak into us today. Me especially, God. Maybe it's me. Lord, I know your people need to stand up and to do the right thing, to follow you into the cry of the people. And it's going to be hard, and we're going to be reluctant. We're going to fight you on it, and we're going to want to do it our own way. So please forgive that in advance. But God, please, that your Spirit would be active. If you were invited, please pour yourself over this place among us, God. You would shake something inside of us, God. And I pray in the name of Christ. Chapter 3, verse 10. God says to Moses, now go. He already knows where he's going. For I am sending you to Pharaoh. You must lead my people Israel out of Egypt. But Moses protested to God. This will be the beginning of a series of protests. He's reluctant. But Moses protested to God, who am I? This is an important question. Who am I to appear before Pharaoh? Who am I to lead the people of Israel out of Egypt? He says, I am calling you, and then the very next thing that Moses says is, who am I? Twice. Who am I? I don't think I can do this. I am incapable of this thing that you're asking me to do, God. I cannot do this. I don't have the tools, and I don't have the constitution for this kind of calling. Who am I? There's a woman named Gladys Aylward. I would bet that hardly any of us would have ever heard this name before. things in the kingdom of God are very rarely famous. We have a weird sense of fame in our world, don't we? The way we keep our histories and the things that we put up on our walls as posters. This is probably not a hero to anyone that probably nobody knows her. Gladys Aylward was an English woman who served as a missionary in the nation of China shortly before the outbreak of World War II. And she was forced to flee China, where she'd been working for a number of years. She was forced to flee when the Japanese invaded, again, just shortly before World War II kicked on. They were invading her city, Yangcheng. And she would not abandon, as a part of her ministry, she was not going to abandon these orphans that she had to care over. She just wasn't going to do it. So she had one other person that was a servant alongside her in this ministry. And so she gathered this person and said, we've got to take these kids out of this place. The problem was, the only place to go to get to freedom was free China. The problem with that was that it wasn't just that it was a distance, it was over a mountain chain. And so, if you know much about what was going on in the world, and just shortly before World War II, with Japanese at that time, living there would not have been an option. If they stayed, they would die. So she tries to summon the courage to do this, gets this other lady to go along, and they grab what would be 100 kids, and they're going to work their way over the top of a mountain chain to get to free China. Well, throughout this entire harrowing journey, Aylward is gripped with fear, and she is deep down, utterly hopeless. She, just like you would if you were a parent, just like if you were the leader, you'd never put that face on. You'd never say it out loud. But at the end of the day, people know if you're hopeless or hopeful. And so the same is the case with her. She's struggling to lead these kids over these mountains to just make it. And I think as they went, the more that they looked at her face, the more that they heard her words, they realized something's not right. And so one morning she woke up, she was very discouraged, plus that night had been sleepless. One of the girls under her care was a 13-year-old girl, and this girl said, "Miss Gladys, I want to remind you about Moses. Don't you remember how God used Moses to lead Israel out of Egypt? That's kind of what you're doing with us. He led Moses, empowered Moses to go through the Red Sea." And Gladys asked a very simple question because she appreciated the attempt. But she would say that what most of us would say. She said this, "But I'm not Moses." And the wisdom of this 13-year-old girl to this woman who was a missionary, who should have known better, when she said, "But I'm not Moses," here's what the girl said. "Of course you aren't. But Yahweh is still God. Yahweh is still God. But what's changed here?" This truly captures the spirit of what we're going to encounter in the story of Moses. Moses is not who we think he is. Moses is a very, very reluctant. He is definitely more Otis, more Gomer than he is Barney. Of course you aren't Moses. We'll find out Moses wasn't Moses. At least not at the beginning. But God is still God. We're going to find ourselves probably doing the immediate world here. Throughout this study in the book of Exodus, you're going to find yourself probably thinking about what your Red Sea will be. You'll probably be thinking about who your Pharaoh is. You're going to probably be thinking about what your calling may be and what it would be like to have to go through the desert back to Egypt. You're going to probably find your way through those kind of things. As I was thinking about this, because this is a very experiential book, you know, we're kind of living our way through it, through the life of Moses. And I was thinking about this because, like, I want to do my best with this book, and I feel fully incapable of being able to express this, how you deserve to hear it, and how the Lord deserves for us to live it. And as I was thinking about this, I wanted to make sure you knew something for me. As you're starting to put yourself in Moses' shoes, and you're thinking, what kind of person am I? When you start getting yourselves in these situations when we got to make our way through the Red Seas, we have enemies, whatever it may be, and you begin to have your mind in these moments kind of, not daydream, but work on the idea. I want to give you full permission. I want you to know this. Please, go with where God's taking your thinking today, next Sunday, the Sunday after that. Hopefully it won't be because you're bored. Hopefully it'll be because God spurred some kind of thinking like, well, this is going to be hard to be Moses in this situation. I want you to spend the duration of your time in church thinking about that. Somebody else can listen to me preach. God's going to be preaching to you. And I don't know what that is, but I know what it's like. I've been in this seat, and I know when whatever sermon may be going on, God's wrestling with me on something very specific. And please, follow that chain of thought. God is still God. I don't know what he means to be God for you, how he's going to have to try and speak to you as Moses, but he's trying to do that. But how is it possible? How is it possible that God can do this in through a guy like Moses? Listen to how God reinforces it all with him in chapter 3, verse 12. God answers, I will be with you. I will be with you. This, if you read the Bible through and through, you will see this phrase is probably the most predominant phrase of reassurance throughout the entire Bible, Old Testament to New, when God says this simple thing, I will be with you. I'm not going to do everything. You got to step out first. I can't force your foot to go to Egypt. But wherever you are, I will be with you. And this is your sign that I am the one who has sent you. When you brought the people out of Egypt, you will worship God at this very mountain. The very place that God's confronting him is the place that he's calling them towards initially. But Moses protested. But Moses got big butts all over the place, doesn't he? But Moses protested. If I go to the people of Israel and I tell them, the God of your ancestors has sent me to you, they will ask me, what is his name? We'd like to know, stranger. Who is this guy? Then what should I tell them? And God replied to Moses, this name. I am who I am. The eternal name of God. We need to utter it. Under no fear of police coming in and stopping us. We get to utter it in the middle of whatever heartache you may be going through or trouble. We get to utter the name of God. I am who I am. And he says it to Moses here for the first time. Say this, Moses, to the people of Israel. I am has sent me to you. God also said to Moses, say this to the people of Israel. Yahweh, the God of your ancestors, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob has sent me to you. This is my eternal name, my name to remember for all the generations. God is making sure that, one, Moses knows all of who he is, and make sure that, you know what, you're going to make a connection when you get to Israel. When you get to these people in Egypt, you're going to make a connection. I am Yahweh, I am God, I am who I am, and I will be with you through it. Chapter 4 now, verse 1. I want to find some of the continued response from our buddy Moses. Verse 1 in chapter 4, but Moses protested again. Hold on a second, because you probably heard the story before, and so I need to interrupt you for a moment in it. I need to remind you what's happening in the story. Where are we at? Speak it out. You guys are in church. We're in the middle of the desert, and he is talking to a bush that will not stop burning, and is talking in his language. And so we're at a number of protests here. I think at some point I'd say, that's pretty cool. And whatever you're saying in that bush, I'm gonna stop saying but. But he doesn't. This guy is below the average guy. This is important. He is below the average guy. That's what you and I would do. We'd be like, oh my goodness, we've done our knees. This guy is not Moses. He's Moses. He protests again in verse 1. What if they won't believe me or listen to me? What if they say the Lord has never appeared to you? Look at verse 10. Moses further pleads with the Lord. Well, Lord, I'm not very good with words. I never have been. I'm not now, even though you've spoken to me. I get tongue-tied. I get tongue-tied, and my words get tangled. Then the Lord asked Moses, who makes a person's mouth? Who decides whether people speak or don't? Hear or don't? See or don't see? Is it not I, the Lord? Now go. I will be with you as you speak, and I will instruct you in what to say. But Moses again pleads, Lord, please send anybody else. Anybody besides me. Moses is the ultimate Otis. The ultimate shirker of duty. Again, Moses, we know Moses, if we know the whole story, we know Moses is held in as high a regard as is possible among the people of Israel. In the same regard as an Abraham, as an Isaac, as a David. Held in high regard, but he does not start here. He starts as a person who questions God a lot. Has a problem with God's plan a lot. This is an important thing to process because you've done it too. I've done it too. And in the quietness of our heart, when we're laying our head down to sleep at night, and we don't go to sleep, and we're starting to think about this life, and we're saying, but God, this is not how it was going to be. This is not the plan. This is not a good way. I can't do that. I won't do that. Send anybody else to do that. So when Moses first resists, though, he just says, who am I? He's saying, I don't think I can do this. His second problem, you see in those last two passages that we read, he says, what if they don't believe me or they won't listen to me? He's not just saying, not only do I think that I can't do this, they're for sure going to think I can't do it either. Here's the second objection. It's interesting that Moses does not have as great a problem with going to talk to the world's greatest and most powerful leader. His problem is not with saying, I got to go talk to Pharaoh. He's been in the royal courts of Egypt. For whatever reason, he does not have a problem with talking to Pharaoh. Do you know who his largest, and it's surprising, who his greatest fear is of? Not Pharaoh, not God who's talking from a bush to him in his own language. He has no fear of Pharaoh or seemingly of God. He stops God 5 times in his tracks and says, no, that's not going to work out. I'm not good with that. Who is his biggest challenge with? His concern is fear. He is concerned with the people. Next week we're going to talk about the difficulty of being leaders, especially spiritual leaders in a body. And we're going to recognize how God uses leaders in amazing ways. What is interesting here is that Moses, who will be the spiritual, political, social, judicial, relational, every kind of old leader that you could be, he will be that to these people, at least early on. He'll be really trying to convey the relationship with God to people. And we find, though, his greatest fear is not God himself. His greatest fear is not Pharaoh. He is worried about people's opinions. He is worried about the people who he will come up against, the people who are his own. Most leaders, this is true, at least I found it, most people are more worried about their own than they are about their enemies. It's interesting. Even 80-year-old men like Moses have fear. You may too. You may fear the opinions of people. Maybe it's your new role at work. You're worried how people are saying you're doing. Maybe it's the workload you're doing at school. Maybe you're not getting the grade that you think you should, and you're kind of worried about what people think of that. Maybe you're stuck in a new position on a team of some kind, and you're like, I don't think I'm doing this very well. And you want reassurance, and you're not getting it from the opinions of others. Maybe when you're getting up to make that big speech, you got to say something, or even just now, a moment ago, speaking in public is a unnerving kind of thing. To just lead the worship. You led the worship just now when you read. And that was a freaky thing. Maybe that's what it is. Or maybe when you're asked to do things like that stretch you here at church, someone's coming up to you and saying, hey, I think that you would be great for this. We're going to talk about this. The reflex of Moses in all of us. Oh, I'm kind of when it's going to be hard, it's going to take time, it's going to take us well outside of our box, and it's going to stretch us. We fear people and those kind of responsibilities more than we do the enemy. You and I are Moses, friends. We are Moses. Most of us feel incapable or unwilling almost all the time. Because we think deep down we probably just don't have it. This is a confidence problem that God followers should not have. Not because of us, but because of God. God can talk through a bush. God can raise Red Seas. He can gush water out of boulders when a man just hits his staff against it, something we'll talk about. If God can do that with a rock, if he can do that with a sea, he can use a willing-hearted person because we are animate. We are alive and willful and can choose. Now, this is important. If you haven't listened, listen here. We're going to read in chapter 4, verse 14. This is huge, and it's just for you. Chapter 4, verse 14. The Lord became angry with Moses. Now, we just read a moment ago. Didn't we just read? God said, if you had that sheet out, if you focus on these things, I do, When I'm worshiping, I mean the things I'm saying. And if I don't sing them. It says, God is telling us, I am not distant and I am not angry. I just read in the Bible, it says the Lord became angry with Moses. This kind of anger is a whole different kind of anger than we're used to. God's like, enough! Come on! Come on! We need somebody that will kick our butts around when it's time to do good. And God is willing to do it here with Moses. But you need to be in the presence of God and other people who will say, what? Come on! Do you have a friend like that? To get a little bit angry with you, to coach you through something. Well, no. You're not going to back out on that. No. And you got to do it. A little bit more Barney. Do you have a Barney? What do you mean you're not going to do that? What do you mean you're going to call off on that one? You're going to mail this one in? You're going to phone it in? What? Why? Do you have a Barney? If you're having a hard time listening to the conviction of God himself, God becomes angry with Moses. It's not going to last forever. And he's saying, come on.